Hi, I'm Jericho Brown. This is Bullet Points. Bullet Points. I will not shoot myself in the head, and I will not shoot myself in the back, and I will not hang myself with a trash bag. And if I do, I promise you, I will not do it in a police car while handcuffed or in the jail cell of a town I only know the name of because I have to drive through it to get home. Yes, I may be at risk, but I promise you, I trust the maggots who live beneath the floorboards of my house to do what they must to any carcass more than I trust an officer of the law of the land to shut my eyes like a man of God might, or to cover me with a sheet so clean my mother could have used it to tuck me in. When I kill me, I will do it the same way most Americans do. I promise you, cigarette smoke, or a piece of meat on which I choke, or so broke I freeze in one of these winters we keep calling worst. I promise if you hear of me dead anywhere near a cop, then that cop killed me. He took me from us and left my body, which is, no matter what we've been taught, greater than the settlement a city can pay a mother to stop crying, and more beautiful than the new bullet fished from the folds of my brain.
My name is Sojourner Ahebe, and I'm a 2013 National Student Poet, and the poem I'm going to share today is entitled Origins. I wrote it after my namesake Sojourner Truth, acclaimed abolitionist and women's rights advocate. Truth was born into slavery in upstate New York, but what continues to astound me about her historical archive is this really intentional and methodical nurturing of self-value and self-worth that she practiced despite some really formidable circumstances. Freedom begins as a belief, and then it manifests into social life through action. Sojourner Truth would go on to embody that when in 1826 she escaped from slavery with her infant daughter. She had a conception of her freedom that preceded the state's and the country's conception of freedom for Black folks. And so this poem, Origins, is about tapping into that Black feminist tradition of agency, belief, and will that Truth modeled for us almost 2 centuries ago. Origins. In the beginning, say there is an open mouth. Say the river and the prayer do the same work. Say it is the labor of longing. Say desire is wet and you touch yourself. Touch meaning in the beginning, Sojourner spun 100 pounds of wool. Touched the white fibers for so long. When she finished, she got up and left. Her master found her not too far, asked why she had run away. I did not run, I walked. I touched the deepest parts of me and said mine. I said a prayer 361 times before this, in many different bodies, on the back of some river, ocean, lake, shore. Touch standing in for creation, the words that flowed from my mouth. Not the boat that floated me here, but what I did with the water, how I drank it, and it sustained me. All my ancestors, they covered in blood. All my ancestors, they show me their love.
I'm Alberto Rios. Wild days, I know. We all know. But in this wildness, it's important to remember Black lives matter. This poem is A House Called Tomorrow. You are not 15 or 12 or 17. You are 100 wild centuries and 15, bringing with you in every breath and in every step, everyone who has come before you, all the yous that you have been, the mothers of your mother, the fathers of your father. If someone in your family tree was trouble, 100 were not. The bad do not win, not finally, no matter how loud they are. We simply would not be here if that were so. You are made fundamentally from the good. With this knowledge, you never march alone. You are the breaking news of the century. You are the good who has come forward through it all, even if so many days feel otherwise. But think, when you as a child learned to speak, it's not that you didn't know words. It's that from the centuries, you knew so many, and it's hard to choose the words that will be your own. From those centuries, we human beings bring with us the simple solutions and songs, the river bridges and star charts and song harmonies, all in service to a simple idea that we can make a house called tomorrow. What we bring finally into the new day, every day, is ourselves. And that's all we need. That's all we need to start. That's everything we require to keep going. Look back only for as long as you must, then go forward into the history you will make. Be good, then better. Write books, cure disease, make us proud, make yourself proud. And those who came before you, when you hear thunder, hear it as their applause. Thank you.
Simulation, or that time I saw Quazon Turner in my son's eyes. When the simulation began, I saw his body, a mangled car full of black and brown bodies. The girl, the pretty white girl with blue eyes and blonde hair, drove a car full of pretty white girls, reeked of whiskey and coke, landed her car on top of my son's. The police, so full of concern for the white girl's car. I stood at the sidelines, praying to a deaf god of concrete and twisted metal, searching for life in his body. My spirit could not feel his. A mother is supposed to feel her child's spirit. I felt nothing. The pretty white girl giggled amongst her friends, dumped bottles out into the field. The EMTs checked to see if they were okay. Those boys, those black and brown boys, whispering depleted breaths, mangled in tune with the metal, didn't draw the EMTs' attention. The EMTs burst windows, threw blankets over black and brown bodies, cut through metal. My sanity shattered faster than the metal did. My son is just a job. Minutes to tick away on a time clock to justify a check. My son, to them, a non-existent legacy, a seed crushed before it had a chance to be grown, will be buried. Suns are supposed to shine light, but I am enveloped in darkness. I hurt. The pretty white girls ran. The pretty white girls stumble and don't get far. The pretty white girls have lawyers to catch them before the police do. It must be nice to know that you can be guilty and still run from the police and not feel bullet ricochet through your bones, to know even in the land of make-believe, you can grow up to be a princess. While my son is destined to be a hashtag, the police ensure the pretty white girls are in loving hands, receive comfort, sat on the curb, no handcuffs. They are loved. They are pretty white girls. They are not for black and brown boys. My son, bloodstained, still in the car, has begun to melt, motionless. Even in a land of make-believe, the life of my son is not as important as the comfort of this white girl. I envy a mother who is not traumatized every time her child walks out of a door. Motherhood is not supposed to be never-ending PTSD, even in a simulation. I mourn my son. Is there no place a black mother will ever know peace?
Hi, my name is Kazim Ali, and I am reading for the Asian American Writers Workshop. This is a poem that I wrote when I moved to California a year ago, and it's called Junipero Serra Arrives. And if you live on the West Coast, you know who Junipero Serra is. There's a lot of streets named after him. He was, in fact, the Inquisitor. He was the Spanish Inquisitor who came to California to Christianize the indigenous people. And so as I came across the mountains from the east, I felt something in common with him coming to California, which is in its fashion a Muslim space. Now, in a year like Bone, on a coast named for the Khalifas, we bring date seeds as tribute to Muslim ghosts. Not the ones we harvested, but the ones that haunt our own breath. We bring grass that will spread like Christ. We stitch new texts into the air and ground. What chance to sky, what garden left your tongue shall tie? Don't say mountain, haunted by bone. Don't say body, don't say home. I too chose to live past the arrival of blades into the bodies of my forebears, directing them like rivers or stone, given such vague directions by God or man. Wanting to climb, wanting to know, to be taught what is there each time I am reinvented as another human, too many times to see the way. Gold and green are not the lights meant to grow here in an Arabia far from home, in a Spain lost to Inquisition, swept away that golden Muslim and Jewish age in wind and sun, all its C words blue and mispronounced from books that did not belong, were miswritten. The mosque roofs grow moss. Rain shines down through the late May storm clouds. What lowly span of ocean I crossed, having renounced my family of questionable faith on that middle island to come here to the valley of the Kumayai on a shore we will oddly call Khalifa, to obey the dismembered God who in pastures of invasive plants summons me once more to storm heaven. Thank you.
They call me Okanta, the Muntu Kuntu energy poet. The poem, Afraid of the Dark, from Guerrilla Dread, about this movement. It started in 1619. Now, they just calling it Black Lives Matter. Afraid of the dark, they proclaimed we were not human, called us heathens, broke us in as slaves, turned us into Black Sambo, Mammy, Zip Coon, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, Jim Crow, Tanisha Anderson, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Melissa Williams, Timothy Russell, Eric Garner, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, niggas. Turned us into those people afraid of the dark. What is really happening when a police white man handcuffs a 5-year-old little black schoolgirl? Who did another police officer think he was seeing when he forced an 8 months pregnant black woman onto the floor to arrest her? They are afraid of the dark. They turn the people into that dreaded criminal element to be feared. But the menace they see reflected in the haunting eyes staring black at them pierces into their own tormented souls. Hey Billy, we are still strange fruit, but this melody is older than old. They're afraid of the dark.
Buju, Kim Blazer, Indigenous Kaz, Anishinaabe Kwe Ndao, Gawababi Boni Kag, and Donjaba. I'm Kim Blazer. I'm Anishinaabe from the White Earth Nation. I'm grateful to be here on behalf of INNAPO, Indigenous Nations Poets. I stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, in solidarity with all of those seeking accountability for the death of George Floyd, for the string of such deaths across this country. The title of this poem, Dead Letter, refers both to those undeliverable letters accumulated by the U.S. Post Office, but more importantly, to laws and treaties that have never been repealed and yet are ineffectual or defunct. We could fill a book with unenforced civil rights protections. There's a line in the poem from Mon Long's Elegy. I offer this to all of you who are grieving, to all of you who are working tirelessly for change. Dead letter. Kneeling before what God on another man's neck? How we lynch now in America, a forgery of justice, protect and serve, defunct as dead letter laws. George Floyd, another notch on the pearl handle of power. Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner, Dontre Hamilton, notch, notch, power notch. Spell me another word for master. Picture postcards of lynching sent. Videos of murder by police addressed to each hall of justice. Undeliverable, addressee unknown. 2. And what if hope crashes through the door? Migizi burns, a riot of flames, a sorrow of suffocating bodies. I can't breathe your toxic America. Sell me windpipe dreams of cedar fluted breath, a song for continuing in our shelter, on our streets, without the phallic generals. for continuing beyond slave ships and warships and Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria ships, beyond chains, treaties, and internment camps, boarding schools and segregated schools, removals and reservations, the phrenology of race and race and race. How we race now, America, to new emancipation, no peace without justice. Let us mask ourselves in hope, all broken of these histories. Kneel now together and count 9 minutes to change. Miigwech.
What's good? I'm Avery R. Young, Wide Awakes. And the title of this poem is After Bam. It comes with an epigraph. Don't force your poem to be nice or proper or normal or happy if it does not want to be. By Gwendolyn Brooks from Young Poets Primer. Poet, poems ain't enough. They help something, but they don't resurrect Lazarus or any other name in them. Show. They can force an exhumation of sort, sometimes, but at best, your amalgamation of imagery and sound will end up just a poem that may provoke, indict, and or encourage a white donor to cut a bigger check to a whiter institution. But, poet, be more than the hand you do write with, or the aptitude to not be nice on page. Ink crying over body ain't an arrest warrant or electric chair. It an instrument of re-trauma more than proper retribution. A poem written in the voice of a weeping mother or unwilling bullet don't stop police on Black crime from being normal news story to craft within the confines of structure and or meter. Poet, a poem ain't justice served or a happy medium between a body within an embrace and then instant loss of that body. If a poem was all these things, I would call poems Jesus, and it would be body back by end of haiku. I hope a poem does a many a thing, from comfort to complicate, and not be merely lyric of spectacle attached to imagination and or want. Poet. Verse in these times be important. And you have to work with your weaponry, but don't get it twisted. A gun, a thing, a pen will never be. You all have a good day.
Hi, I'm Monica Yoon, and I'm honored to be reading for you for the One Poem Protest and Reading for Poets House. I wanted to read a poem that I wrote in the winter of 2014-2015. On my faculty, there were several of us who had new babies at the time, and a colleague put forth the challenge that each of us would try to write a poem in our baby's nap time. Luckily, my baby at the time was taking 2.5-hour naps. But at the time, I lived in Manhattan, very close to Foley Square, and the Eric Garner protests, the Movement for Black Lives protests were going on. And so there was this incessant noise of sirens and helicopters, the chants from the protesters. And so when I put my baby down for his nap, I would turn on this little app on my phone, a white noise app. And I found out that white noise is just the same sine wave repeated over and over again. I'd been doing some reading on white fragility and thinking about how structural racism teaches white people to seek security and comfort in sameness, in surrounding themselves with white people, white surroundings, and how early that training begins. And so I wrote this poem originally called White Noise, later titled Whiteacre. Proleptic flinch of whiteness, the hunch of shouldering into it, stoic glitch zipping up its jacket of static, knit fabric of interlocking Z's. The apotropaic as abject, self-replicating reflex of self-defense, vain camouflage that functions as neither shield nor shelter. The canker's milk nourishes nothing. The ice rink exudes only its own doom. Thank you.
My name is Matthew Matt Radio Thompson. I am a poet, comedian, and filmmaker out of Cleveland, Ohio, and I want to thank Lambda Literary for inviting me to One Poem Festival. But before I start, I want to say that I stand with the poets who sent the letter to Poetry Foundation. The sentiments and demands of that letter, I hope, are being picked up, applied, and listened to by other institutions of letters and poetry. We are living in the fucking whacked out quasi fuck space, and I hope that we are thinking of actionable ways outside of posting a black square hashtag Black Lives Matter on Instagram. That is like not shit at this point, and it hasn't been shit. And so I hope that we are listening to the poets that are thinking about ways to bring us into a freer and a more anti-racist future. And so I have a poem that I think is fitting for the time. It was written out of a prompt, write a spell for your last day on earth. And to me, it's fitting because I come from a Black American family. And, you know, we talk about all of these things and engage in Black liberation work. And in that, you just never know when your last day is going to be. And so my hope is to immortalize, if not myself, my family through this poem. Remember me this way, in a flannel, trying to make you laugh like all those times your belly was too full to really keel over in the kiki. Medium-haired or long-haired, if you have that memory, singing a song I never let leave me. Layla Hathaway, SZA, Frank Ocean, kissing my neck, subtle, hinting he wants more. See me laying between the ones who would have me healthy, writing affirmations and doing yoga every morning. I want your praise for what I have done for you. I won't lie. I won't lie at this point. While my songs ash over, my hands lose their grip too. Niggas take it all. I mean, like all the good water, smooth lube, money, and produce. Drape off-white material over the shoulders of young girls singing Beyonce with the comb in their mirror. Portrait the non-girls smiling, teeth red wine stained, belly ache from gluttony taken to its most gluttonous. Give the submissive boys a crusty diamond crown and unlimited jock straps. My mother will see her name on a marquee while one of her ex-husbands dates a girl thirsty to see Renee Reed's work. Someone somewhere hollers till their throat dries to dust. My dad must have what he has, since we are in a business of joy-based having. My siblings get whatever they want, except me breathing. Singe me to dust. Pour my ashes on a sandalwood pile of ash. Stir the sandalwood. Know it's me when the wind picks up and unsettles everything.
My name is Martin Espada. This poem is called The Sign in My Father's Hands for Frank Espada. The beer company did not hire blacks or Puerto Ricans, so my father joined the picket line at the Schaefer Beer Pavilion, New York World's Fair, amid the crowds glaring with canine hostility. But the cops brandished nightsticks and handcuffs to protect the beer, and my father disappeared. In 1964, I had never tasted beer, and no one told me about the picket signs torn in two by the cops or brewery. I knew what dead was. Dead was a cat overrun with parasites and dumped in the hallway incinerator. I knew my father was dead. I went mute and filmy-eyed, the slow boy who did not hear the question in school. I sat studying his frame photograph like a mirror, my darker face. Days later, he appeared in the doorway, grinning with his gilded tooth, not dead. Though I would come to learn that sometimes Puerto Ricans die in jail, with bruises no one can explain swelling their eyes shut. I would learn, too, that boycott is not a boy's haircut, that I could sketch a picket line on the blank side of a leaflet. That day, my father returned from the netherworld easily as riding the elevator to apartment 14F, and the brewery cops could only watch in drunken disappointment. I searched my father's hands for a sign of the miracle.
My name is Priska Afonchow, and I'm based in Connecticut. This is an original poem titled Black and Blue. Every town is a sundown town if you carry the night with you. When the sky catches up with black kids playing after the streetlights turn on, when it's darkest outside, those black kids turn blue. Not just an illusion, but a chance for bruises to finally show through. When blood rushes to my face, I may not blush, but it's still there. When I fall, my skin might not turn purple, yellow, green from the usual injury, but my body is still trying to repair what is always breaking. When I stand against the night, that almighty backdrop, I blend in, but I'm still there. Every trip outside is like a game of truth or dare, or cops and robbers, or rather, two truths and a lie. 1, I am scared. 2, I can get away unharmed as long as I run fast enough. 3, they are scared of me. Trying to run away from someone hell-bent on catching you is signing up for eventual fall. Trying to surrender to someone hell-bent on catching you is signing up for a quicker fall, but not necessarily a softer fall. Bracing myself doesn't stop the blow. I may pick peace, but that doesn't mean my captor will correct their cruelty. I may say I'm not playing, but that doesn't mean it won't run after me. Pacing myself doesn't stop the pain. When black kids play outside after the street lights turn on, they make their own rules, but sometimes they don't stick. Some kids make up their own rules and break them for fun. Some people make up rules for everyone, rules that are impossible to keep up with, then break them for fun, break other people for fun. And when black person becomes black body, when black body hits black top and can't get up, when black body hits black top and can't breathe, there is no timeout. There is no timeout for a game that already defies the rules of time by having no end. So, when my friends tell me to run or not to run, when the cops decide in this game we are the robbers, when the darkness that turns me blue threatens to become a black hole I can never escape from, I decide I am not scared of the sky catching up with me, or even the car catching up with me. I am scared of always being scared, that this burden will bruise me too, turning me permanently blue. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Asamer McCoy. I am from Miami, Florida by way of Richmond Heights. I am a writer and educator, mother and daughter. And I am representing today, Oh Miami, and I am so honored to do so. The piece that I will be reciting for you all today is entitled The Mecca, Ode to the 183rd Street Flea Market. What do you know about brown bodies dripping sugar water in the dead of heat? Big asses struggling against stained walks and arched backs, backs blown by bass and downbeat, where four ways turn into pack jams and parking lots become dance floors, my God. What you know about running to the flea for a fit and a shoe and a cut and a chain, and the rap to Tanya with the 2 goals to the bottom and the 4 to the top who work in the food court will always give you way too many fries and not enough wings, but she cute so you let it slide. And what you know about walking in with your shorts on and your jit on your arm, security trying to check you out and you just came to get your nails done and get some extra ends from that nigga Sean with the t-shirt printing booth, where you can find out if the stories about old girl getting shot at the party are really true by looking at hundreds of dead faces on tank tops, hats, and banners too. What you know about scratching an itch for some cucumbers and vinegar or a hot sausage broken up into some salt and vinegar chips. Listen, I just want to see some black boys with some dukes on their head. Or Dirty Red with the do-rag where when I ask him where he been, he say, what you talking about? Or chill out. Then grabs me by the waist to kiss me with the yuck mouth. Take me out on a simmering Sunday to watch the car show. Promise me you gonna put me in the peanut butter with the white guts Eldo. Then lose me to the crazy Chico with the wine box Chevy and the suicide doors. My God. Because black girls just want to have fun and be free as fuck. We just want our braids touching our backs while we kick back and perfect the tongue smack. We don't stop walking because you said, hey, black. We gonna laugh. Our laughter is so beautiful you forget how goddamn hot it is. A sea of assorted chocolates melting into each other. This is how being black and sexy in the city feels. Here in the Mecca is where I found the fantastic in our funk. The life in our loitering, the promise in the pressure, the dynamic in our damage. It is where I found the raw in my ratchet. Gold nameplate earrings, body-hugging jeans on new hips, baby girl tube top over flat chest, fake little baby Louis bag. You couldn't tell me shit then, and you can't tell me shit now. In the vacant place they replaced with a strip mall, I found the brilliance in my being and the need to be free while waiting on the curb for the 27 on 183rd. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Reina Leon, and I am reading a poem for the Poetry Festival's One Poem Festival. The poem is called Suspect, published first on the Best American Poetry blog. Suspect. In the isolation room, there are dirt spots on the floor. And laboring as the contraction waves rise to peak pain and then taper, I focus on dirt. I am riding a wave above the soiling. The child washes over me in hot spray. My body sheens over in glow. A nurse says, "You are so strong," and "You are doing so well." Her affirmations are dumb. I do not trust them. How can I when I cannot see her lips, her face beneath the blue mask? I too am masked. It is a dirty exchange. I think in expletives. I try to return to the wave. I ask for a heating pad. They will never bring it. My touch is contagion, suspected contagion. I am guilty until proven innocent. A fever is pandemic. A black body is pandemic. A fever is not a possible sign of labor, though I am laboring. The child pushes blood through the gate, announces itself. The body takes over. The doctor says, "Do whatever your body tells you." As if I could stop her entrance on this human water, the fertile spark of me, a path into an isolation filled with people. I focus on the spots and their erasure, mine. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Seshu Foster. I'm going to read 2 Alhambra postcards about an incident that took place here in this neighborhood a few years back. Alhambra postcard 1. Around 4:30 a.m., a loudspeaker blared, "This is Sheriff's Special Weapons Unit. We have a search warrant. Carlos Montes, come out with your hands in the air. Residents at Waverly Drive, come out of the house with your hands in the air. We have a warrant to search the residence. Carlos Montes, come out of the house," repeatedly for nearly half an hour. Then they smashed in the front door, Fallujah style. Helmeted men in full armor poured in and through the rooms, sighting through their raised rifles, flashlights slicing the dark kitchen, the living room, up the staircase, the upstairs bedroom, their military silhouettes providing cover for one another precisely, all their movements visible through the large panoramic windows. For a long time they cased the rooms, entered the garage, pulled over boxes from shelves, searched the car. They relaxed, stood about, rifles pointed down. The commandos left, uniformed sheriff's officers milled about. As dawn arrived, unmarked sedans pulled up. Gray men in plainclothes entered the house for their own inspections. Activity diminished when I left for work. 2 Alhambra patrol cars were parked in the alley. Our neighbor's house was ripped open. Our neighbor is an activist. His daughter came later to close up the house. Alhambra postcard 2. Sunday, I read a piece at the Silver Lake Jubilee about the FBI and cops smashing down my neighbor's door, arresting him and trashing his house. He started Latinos Against the War. Yesterday, somebody in camouflage with a pistol came to my door and bugged my daughter about where were her parents and what did they know about the neighbor. Is this an American poem? I gotta finish my coffee and go to work.
I talk facing away from the dead. They replace me with the change in my pocket, a penny that's yet to be invented. They say you have to know how to cut a throat on the way to cutting a throat. After sleeping on a mattress made from 2 garbage bags of clothes, I became content with the small gestures of plantation fires. Playing with couch ashes, I realized how weird the universe was. It exists in so many places, so many random things that interrupts me while I'm trying to dream. Like your clay correspondence, Lord. To be transparent, I have 20 books next to a bullet like an old man giving advice at the beginning of a revolution. I've really done it, Lord. Explored the mumbles of my mind. Explored what's naturally there, and I found no brainwashing. I found Africa, Lord. I have a future. It takes place in the diasporic South. I have morning possessions. Modern militancy, I mean windows to the South. I will walk on a missile for food. I guess you will not want flowers for a few years, Lord. Will I be tied face to face with the country I murdered? Merge with us, Lord. Our old metal versus new metal, our old metal versus a pool of meandering imperialist faces, a multiculturalism of sorts. The dead replaced me with a comedian's chest cavity. Instead of a chest cavity held tight, it takes a violent middleman for me to talk to myself. Stories that travel through other people's stories. A song about a song, a hemisphere about a hemisphere, stories that travel through a conquered poet. My mother remembers Africa, Lord. She killed on behalf of you, Lord. I wore a machete all winter and no one asked me what it meant. I read 1,000 books in front of the world. What I do is fight poems and sleep through decadent San Francisco prayer circles. Watch people play for post-working class associative surfaces or recreations of a governor's desk. Ruling class art of utility playing finally sociopathic bureaucrat. A day some white people scare even easier. TV in a basket next to a ceramic baby wearing ceramic armor, musket progeny fantasizing through the art of the poor, their trendy latches locked before God, black art hunted down like a dog, and hand over my friends, Lord. Lord, I think I'm going to die in the war. Unelected white people in my small house like a blue song of no spiritual effect. Or a dollhouse H-bomb, a pony show near dead bodies, apartheid weddings that go right, apartheid white people who give birth to mathematicians, the spiritual continuity of barracks and police stations, a chemical interpretation of a Sunday trip to church smells in their pockets, a river mistaken for a talking river, no autobiography outside the small personal victories of violence and drug use made in the image of God's trinkets, what white abolitionists confided in their children about, chemical assurances that they will switch from black artist to white artist, black God to white God, black worker to white worker. I think about you cautiously, Lord. In the same way I think about my childhood, Lord. Foxhole Friday nights, most of life is mute. A comedian points out a planter's field to a priest. King Sugarcane, King Cotton, King Revolutionary, the Bottless Central, containing all modes of shallow introduction, introducing an unlisted planter class speaking about fevers and balance sheets and reassuring the masses that we can figure out our fathers later. A priest took my mother lightly, Lord. Stood in front of parishioners, re-raveling fantasies about black art. Priest reading confidently before I broke him and broke his parallel. After today, I've never been a poet before. A little brother watches his big brother's friends. They leave rifles on shelter walls. They agree with me and call it literature. It's a simple matter, this revolution thing. To really lie to no one. To keep nothing godlike. To write a poem for God.
Hi, I'm Emma Reyes, and I'm the daughter of Cuban immigrants. I'm grateful to be able to add to the choir of voices sharing poems of protest, especially now when thousands of us are gathered in every state of the nation to support Black lives. I started writing this poem the year of our last presidential election, and I've added each subsequent year to the epigraph as a way of documenting, through the art of language, the work we must continue to do to create healing and justice. How we lived. 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And sparrows unthread nests, bring their young nothing, and shadows best seen inside the pitch of a cave. And 3 men stabbed on a train because of courage. And jacarandas flick cinder and blacken the ground. And the harbor horn is a creature roping hulls to the reefs. And the reefs gleam with chrome and absence. And absence is welcome. The bullet is welcome. The malignant cell is welcome. The gray faces and their merciless tongues are welcome. And a father is reptilian in his regard. And a mother stitches her lips like a wound. And the wound smells of silence and it's blaring. And a child lays hands on a mine. And a man swallows his lies without measure. And a woman is told she is less than him. She is less than the bodies left behind, less than the unmade, the never was, the dirt forgotten by the tracks. And I no longer care about the losses. I no longer care if the last bit of bark is stripped from the earth, if the starved possum survives the road, whether my neighbor coughs blood while she drags off a red, or the hand turning the knob means me harm. I no longer fear the inexorable diagnosis. The oceans rising to such heights in my dreams, they are monstrous, but still we are all running towards each other in this latest hour, refusing to shutter our eyes.
Hi, I'm Nikki Walschlager, and I'll be reading tonight on behalf of Wooden Pattern for Academy of American Poets Poetry Coalition. What if heaven is just another white folks' kitchen? Here comes that damn psychiatrist again, after another night of obstructive sleep. The nurses were required to poke their heads in the rooms every 15 minutes to make sure the patients didn't off themselves with their bed sheets. Her doctor was a white woman painfully self-conscious about her capacity to sympathize with black women as human beings. Now she needed to convince the psychiatrist that her suicidal tendencies had slowed to an acceptable sludge of lowered self-esteem, instead of the urgency to end her life that had put her there. "How are you doing today?" the psychiatrist asked. "I'm feeling much better," she said, smiling. "Any suicidal thoughts?" "Oh, the usual," she replied. "The usual? Could you tell me about the thoughts you're having?" "Yes," she said. "They say I need to get the hell out of here before they catch me again." But I managed to interrupt their conversation, she continued. "They're looking out for me, letting me know I have options when it gets bad." "How do you know when it's bad?" asked the psychiatrist. "When they shout too much," she said. "It's when I know they've surrendered. But I have a defense against them when they get too loud for my body to handle. Something I've been working on in peaceful moments, when I'm gardening, reading books, cooking a fine meal for myself, loving a woman, making a sweet man blush." She continued, "Look, I'm not sure if I'm afraid of dying. It's something everybody does, so it feels irrelevant to slap so much attention on it. I'm not methodically religious, but the thought that scares me is, what if life is only a dress rehearsal for your role in the afterlife? What if heaven is the same story for people as it is down here? Can you dig?" It got quiet when I started thinking that, figuring if death was worse, I may as well stick around. At least it ain't eternity. I feel better now about going home. Maybe I'll adjust my habits. Try to live as long as I can despite them, she chuckled. The psychiatrist, academically trained in patience, became brisk and professional. "What I'm going to do is adjust your medication, and it should help with auditory hallucinations. But we need to keep you here for a few more days to monitor the new dosage. Before I go, I'd like to ask you one more question so I can better understand you as a patient. When you said the voices tell you to get the hell out of here before they catch you again, who is they? Who are the voices warning you about?" She laughed. This white woman was too much. All that worldly education, and she never thought to lift the curtain herself. "They're telling me to run," she said. "They're telling me to get away as fast as I can from people like you who think there's nothing to be afraid of." Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mira Dasgupta. I am 16 years old and the 2020 United States Youth Poet Laureate with Urban Word NYC in the National Youth Poet Laureate Program. My poems as victims of gun violence. This is where my poems go to pen their eulogies. They bleed a black ink and find a casket that blends well with the ground. I do not know if my poems prefer gardenias or roses. The rapid firing of a gun leaves my poems bloated with sudden death, judgment, a narrative in which they don't have a name. America remembers the anniversary of my poem's memorial, lights a candle but forgets that my poems are not love poems. My poems are students tearing up the streets in their new Air Jordans, are teachers holding the Big Apple in the palm of their hands, are janitors mopping the floor of the mess that other poems have left behind. My poems aren't bulletproof. My poems bury friends before they bury themselves. My poems sob when dissecting frogs in biology class, have gloves on so the blood can't streak their hands in transaction. My poems love their mamas, still kiss them on the forehead before going to bed. My poem shot a fizzy glass of white privilege before it shot them in the forehead. My poems pray to God sometimes. My poems reread horoscopes. My poems do not pretend to know the future, so they walk to the horizon and stay there. Shatter the sky until their bodies parch the light of their names. Dance in the shadows until they are but one writhing black mass in the distance, their death eclipsing the sun where they stand. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day and that you keep on protesting and using poetry as a means for advocacy, because this is a revolution and our voices are much needed within this space, this nation, this year, and for our futures.
My name is Kwame Dawes. I'm a poet. I'm also a chancellor on the Academy of American Poets. This is a poem called Land Ho. It's published several years ago, and it's written in response to the wonderful work of Tom Feelings. I cannot speak the languages spoken in that vessel, cannot read the beads promising salvation. I know this only, that when the green of land appeared like light after the horror of this crossing, we straightened our backs and faced the simplicity of new days with flame. I know I have the blood of survivors coursing through my veins. I know the lament of our loss must warm us again and again down in the belly of the whale. And here in the belly of the whale, where we are still searching for homes, we sing laments so old, so true, then straighten our backs again. Thank you.
Talafalava, hello. My name is Teresa Siangatanu. I am a Kundiman Fellow, and this is my offering for the One Poem Festival, Poetry and Protest. There are years where I believe in heaven, even all 9 that Tangaloa created for my people to return to. And then there are years where I'm convinced that there are no gods. As far as I'm concerned, 2020 is a godless year until further notice. There's a shortage on both faith and PPE. No bailouts for the brokenhearted and the purely broken. Just all of the ways to run out of ways to call this administration by the evil they are. And even that no longer satisfies. We don't even have energy to spend in that direction because all we have is whoever we can scoop up in our grief and whoever we have left on the ventilators and whoever is willing to die for everything that has always been due to us. I'm always between dying for my land back or ready to die in the new country we leave for together. The nation beyond this one. The one that we're too tired from capitalism to dream about, let alone usher into existence, the one beyond my own, that was severed into 2 nations, neither of which I may ever get back in this lifetime. Fine. I'm at peace with what may have to be the consequences of outliving whatever dreams my ancestors had when they were here, because they're not here anymore. And I have to dream bigger now. Because the war is different now and the goalpost keeps moving and the disease is global in a way that comes for our lungs first and we already weren't able to breathe to begin with. They say, kill the cop in your head, Teresa, and I don't apologize for killing more than him. I even re-kill my colonizers who have been dead for centuries, or have they been? How else can we explain the US military? Their commander-in-chief, my father, once a soldier who didn't mean to be a soldier if it wasn't for his broken English. How else can we explain the Native genocide and African enslavement that created this country? The police force that protects it, the prison system that produces it. What other name is there for this terror? And what if I'm tired of saying its name? What if the lesser of 2 evils is an option I no longer am willing to die for, if the new country can hold the weight of no evil at all? So fuck it. Let's leave for the new country in the morning. You know what, fuck it. Let's leave for it right now. Bring all of our people with us, starting with our dead. Give them the proper burials that our cultural protocols have been aching for. When we get there, let's just let the children run through the tall grass, with full bellies, no cages, beneath a sun that cups the land in its palm without overheating it. In the new country, Black women know rest. Black women brought us here the way they bring us forward everywhere. Here, there is no altar to sacrifice ourselves on anymore. No reason to do it anymore either. There's just the audacity of abundance, and we have everything we need to live. Survival is a tool that does not serve us here, and praise one of our gods for that. Praise all of our gods if we have to. I'm second guessing what I said about heaven. Here, I feel okay with changing my mind if the conditions change too. But then again, there is an impossible amount of grief here. We had to bring it with us. And I don't know what the grief will make of us here, but it still is the price we pay for all that we love, because we've been loving longer than every war against us. Generations following another, and look what we've survived in the miracle of our shared breath, passed down from good lungs to good lungs through air that let us breathe. So it's maybe safe to assume that here, heaven does exist. Maybe the diaspora wanted me to dream beyond the nation, to remind me of who I'm actually indigenous to. How maybe the first place I belonged was in the dream of a better idea than borderlands. Either this is the country we deserve, or we belong to a nation not yet here, one that is waiting in labor, ready for us to push. Thank you.
My name is Safia El-Helo, and this is Self-Portrait with Yellow Dress. I believe that sometimes we do not die. I will not believe that to be housed in a body that is black is to be dressed always in black for the funeral. We live forever. Sometimes our mouths open and a song falls out, thick with a saxophone syrup, and all our dead in the ground make this land ours, and all our missing fathers make us everything's child. Today I did not dress for a funeral. Today I wear the yellow dress and laugh with all my teeth. Today my lost ones are not lost to me. They live in the wind that gathers my skirt. Today this is my country. Today I say their names, and all the holes left behind, shaped like black girls and black boys, are lit up by hundreds of faraway stars. Today I woke up and was not dead, and tomorrow might be different, but tomorrow does not yet exist. So I hold my mother's hand and kiss the brown valley between each knuckle. My brother opens his mouth to laugh, and the light pours in through the gap in his teeth. I press my body to a man that I find beautiful, and sway to a song that knows us. I live forever with my feet in my grandmother's lap. I live forever by the water with the sun spilled over me. Remember me this way. And when they come for me, play the song I love into the space I leave behind.